You've been looking at protein powders and the regulation or lack thereof around them. What have you found?
Well, it arises from an American study, which they surveyed the Consumer Reports, which is their equivalent of Choice, did last year and then published more recently, of protein powders and protein shakes. And what they found is lead and heavy metals in a very high proportion of them. And not at the same proportion that ancient Roman civilization had with lead pipes and everything else that was lead to sweeten wine, but nonetheless significant that if you were taking protein shakes and protein powders in the American context, you would exceed at least the California's lowest recommended level, or not recommended, but lowest permitted level of intake on a daily basis. And some of them had quite high levels, relatively speaking. So the question here is what's happening in Australia? And we don't know. The last time Australia did a survey of foods, there was lead contamination in some of them. And this is inevitable to some extent. I mean, if you live in Port Pirie or Mount Isa or Broken Hill, there's lead in the environment from the smelting, but we had lead in petrol, and lead doesn't disappear from the environment. It stays there and gets absorbed into biological systems, as well as there being lead in soil anyway. The question is, what about these protein powders and protein shakes, and are they safe? Now, the real problem here is children and young people, when they've got developing organs, can affect the brains of developing kids. In older people, that can damage the kidneys and also be involved in heart disease. So it's not a safe compound. And in Australia, unlike California, Australia does not accept there's any safe lower limit to lead intake. So we don't have saying two micrograms a day is an adequate level. Right. We don't have that in Australia. Our level 0 in Australia. And yet the possibility is that when you've got these concentrated products, you can get lead in them. So for example, why does that occur? So it's mostly in the vegan versions of protein powders, because pea protein, vegetable proteins are used. And it's a bit like the fruit juice issue. You're not supposed to take too much fruit juice because instead of eating one orange, there's several oranges in a glass of fruit juice. Yeah. And therefore you're getting all those concentrated calories. You've got to process a lot of peas to get the protein in a protein powder. So if you were a vegan and you are taking a plate of peas with broccoli and vegetables, you're not going to be taking much lead, even though the peas might have a low level of contamination. But when you actually concentrate it in a protein powder, you're actually bringing it all together.
But can consumers feel safe that in Australia, when they're walking down the supermarket aisle or the chemist or wherever they are, that the protein powder on sale is safe?
Not necessarily, no. There may well be lead in it, and if you're taking it once every so often, it's highly unlikely to be doing you any harm. But if you're taking 2 or 3 shakes a day or a shake a day, you might be actually building it up, and it stays in your body. The body soaks it up. It goes into your bones, goes into other tissues, and you don't get rid of that lead that easily. Okay. So if you're taking a lot of it, you've got to watch out. The protein shakes that were safer were ones with dairy in it, whey protein, because they had less of the vegetable protein in it. Right. So this is not to panic people, just be a bit careful and ask yourself, do you
really need it? And have a look at what you're taking.
Have food.
Have food. Norman Swan, thank you.
You're welcome.